Alright, well, we just got done seeing The Kingsman, and if you're wondering, he won't. I actually will be seeing 50 Shades of Grey on Tuesday with a few female friends, and we'll do the
You just have to get that part. He's going with
female friends who have read the book. I actually have not read the book, so we'll get the perspective of someone who has read the source material and someone who is seeing this movie with an open mind, I guess, if you want to put it nicely.
Sure.
This kind of like with the SpongeBob movie. When I saw the trailer for both the SpongeBob movie and Kingsman, I kind of thought, ugh, those look terrible. And SpongeBob movie turned out to be pretty fun, and this turned out to be a lot better than I thought as well. I honestly can't say I love this film.
I feel like I liked it more than you did.
Yeah, sure.
But I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I thought this film was okay. It was fine. I feel like it's a movie that wants to be... Oh, every movie wants to be good, of course. But I feel like this wants to be kind of like how we were with John Wick and The Equalizer, an action film where action buffs like us see it and we go, oh, I loved that! I just didn't take that much away from this movie. To kind of put it simply, the third act is when the action really starts to kick in. And when that happens, it's a lot of fun. And the performances start to get amped up, there's more jokes thrown in there, and it's actually a really fun third act. But the first and second act just didn't do much for me. There just wasn't much that I felt invested into. Some of the characters were fun, but some of the other characters, including the main character, I just didn't care for. There were cliches. You can kind of honestly compare the first act of this film to the first act of Men in Black. It's very similar, actually.
Kind of, yeah.
And it wants to do a lot of creative things as an action film and as a spy film. Some of those things I thought were fine, but some of them actually a lot of them I didn't think much of it.
I feel like this movie wanted to be paying homage to 70s Bond films and stuff like that. But some of the stuff just didn't work like a 70s Bond
It just
film.
doesn't...
Because one, it's not the 70s anymore, which I understand.
Yeah.
But two, they just didn't do it in the same charming way that a Bond
Exactly.
film
It doesn't have the charm. Exactly. I think you're right on the money. It wants to have this charming, appealing presence to it, but I just didn't feel much from it because I think it's trying to be a little bit of both. It wants to be this kind of fun, engaging adventure film that you can kind of take seriously but still have fun. But then
on the other side, a campy Bond
on
film.
the other side, it's not only is it campy like Bond, but it's also a hard R.
Yeah.
Unlike the Bond films, it's a hard R at times. That's the weird thing too. It's not always a hard R film. And some of the action scenes are not that brutal, but at other moments it's extremely brutal and it's weird. It's kind of bipolar at times.
Yeah.
So tone is not very consistent. And in this movie's, sometimes that works, but in this movie's specific case, I think it's a disadvantage to itself. So I know we're really, really going off on something that seems unimportant, but if you see the movie, you'll kind of know what we're talking about. It kind of wants to do one thing, but then it's trying to do something else. And sometimes when it was paying homage or reference or even to some extent parodying, say, a Bond film, sometimes it was fun. We both love the Bond movies, so, some of that was fun. And also, it references, there's one scene where they're like, oh, JB, does that stand for James Bond? Oh, does that stand for Jason Bourne? Oh, does that stand for Jack Bauer? And I thought that was actually a really funny line. I didn't really realize how many spies / action heroes have the initials JB. But that was kind of fun. But there's other moments that are weird or just random. There's jokes that fall flat.
Jokes that just didn't work
at all. Yeah,
where you're just kind of like, why did they go with that?
The casting was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, for a hard R action film, I really didn't think Samuel Jackson was that much fun as the villain.
I feel like
he was very prototypical.
I feel like they could have done so many different things with him to make him a more fun villain.
They really
but the gimmick they went with him.
The gimmick is that he dresses in a fancy / street way. So he has like a blazer on, but then he has like a hat, tipped sideways, and that's like he's always dressed like that throughout the film. And then his other gimmick is that he has a lisp, and that's it. That's the gimmick, is that he has a lisp. So as he's doing his diabolical evil plan, he's doing it talking like this the whole time. And that was kind of funny at first.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a joke that was funny throughout the whole film.
I think the whole joke that they were trying to do was like, hey, look, it's Samuel L. Jackson, and he has a lisp. Isn't that funny? And it's like, I guess.
There was also a joke about how he doesn't like seeing blood and violence.
He doesn't like violence.
Even though he's
an evil megalomaniac.
That was kind of funny. There's a part where he shoots a guy in the head, and the moment he does it, he's like, oh, gross. Like, that was kind of funny, but they really downplayed him, I thought. Like, they just kind of dropped the ball on it. Granted, Samuel looked like he was having fun.
Yeah.
I mean, he always finds a way, I think. And I love Samuel Jackson, who doesn't? But I didn't think much of it. And his henchman, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen it, his henchman is this woman that has like these razor legs.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't do anything for me.
I thought it was cool, I guess.
It was, okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it. For me, I didn't hate it, but it wasn't like...
It was an interesting gimmick, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think they were trying to do something creative with it. There were some moments where
something that has never been seen before,
But I know they were... I can appreciate them for trying to do something creative. It wasn't like a Jaws character, like where it really stuck out to you. Maybe that's because the actress didn't give like a performance that kind of intimidated me.
She didn't have many lines either.
Yeah,
they didn't give her
Jaws doesn't have any lines in The Spy Who Loved Me, and he was fantastic in that film. I don't know. I just didn't think much of that. I mean, I think the payoff is really good, but the build-up just isn't that much. So if you're willing to sit through the whole film, you'll ultimately have fun, for me at least. But
I never felt bored, though. I mean, I was
but I was never that interested either. For me personally. I'll admit, I was never really like, oh, can this be over already? But I feel like I should have been more engaged,
Mm-hmm.
And when they were talking about, there's scenes where they are deliberately talking about Bond films, and they're like, oh, I love the classic Bond films. I love those ridiculous plot lines and the over-the-top villain and Bond always finding a way in some ridiculous form. That just made me think, like, dude, right now I'd much rather be watching a Connery Moore film right now. I
felt like this movie really wanted to break the fourth wall. Like, they're always like, oh, well, this isn't that kind of movie, I
hate that so much. In movies in general, I hate meta jokes like that.
And it's like, so you know that you're in a movie?
It didn't work in Scream when they did that to horror films. Yeah. Oh, don't say you'll be right back, because in horror movies you'll die. Like that. Oh, we're being cute. That's what it is. They think they're being cute when they reference cliches like, it's not cute. It's obnoxious.
And I don't know if, I don't mind it as much as I think some people would.
Sure.
And, maybe it's just because, it's hard for me to understand them sometimes, but the British accents in this film, some of them, it was really hard to understand what they were saying. There was a lot of times they'd say something, I was like, what did they say? Or, what does that mean? Or,
I kind of felt the same way, but...
it's a very British movie,
Oh, what do you mean? In the fact that we see not Obama invest into Samuel Jackson's evil plan,
I love
and then we see Obama's head explode at the end? Spoiler alert!
I love how this film assumes that every single, really important world leader would sell us out in an instant.
Yeah.
That is the plot, that is the lesson you're supposed to learn from this.
Yeah.
Is that our leaders will just sell us
Everyone is evil. Maybe Samuel Jackson was right.
So everything. So what you're saying is everything is not awesome.
Everything is not awesome. Not everything is not.
But like, you know, like you said in the third act, when the violence really kicks up, that church scene.
Okay, I'll get.
Can we talk about
Yeah,
that? That was insane.
AKA, it's basically James Bond versus the Westboro Baptist Church in a hard R movie. There's a we can't
Do you remember the name of that church? I wonder if it's a real church.
No,
I doubt.
I think that was their way of saying not Westboro Baptist.
Okay.
That was totally supposed to be the Westboro Baptist Church with a different name. It's hard to explain the plot, but basically, one of the Kingsmen, one of the spies, one of the main spies, is in a Westboro-like church, and Samuel Jackson tests his diabolical plot on the church, in which everybody involved in this test like goes psychotic and starts killing everyone around them. And so we have this like 5-minute action scene where they're playing Freebird, and the spy.
More than 5 minutes. It felt like 10 minutes.
Oh, it was 10. It was a long scene.
It
helped that almost all of it was like in a consistent shot. And so
I thought that was cool.
It was cool. That was like shaky. Well, I'll explain that in a minute actually. But and so
shaky cam done well.
Yeah. And so the spy ends up getting involved in this. So the spy and all these people in this church just go crazy, and everyone in the church is trying to kill each other. And it goes on, and the whole time they're playing Freebird in the background. Super brutal, and actually it was the first part in the movie, that was about the midpoint in the film. That was the first time in the film where I was like actually like really invested. I was like, this is actually kind of awesome. And it got better, and they did more of that in the third act. But yeah, to explain how it was done, this was a unique form of kind of shaky cam, but actually done right. I'm not a fan of shaky cam. Usually shaky cam is terrible. Many times it ruins a film. But this was done in a way where, one, it was shaky, but you could still tell what was going on.
Yeah.
And it was
and
still...
it didn't give you a headache.
It wasn't lazy. It wasn't substituting that as lazy filmmaking. Like, it was actually well filmed. But it did it in a way where it was staying consistently, for the most part, in the same shot. So while it's moving around in the same shot. It's not shaky cam in the sense that it's cut, you know.
You know, and it was shaky cam in a way where the center character that we're supposed to be focusing on, the agent, stays in the focus of the shot. Like it's going like this, but you can still like it's still focused on him, and he's still in focus, so you can still tell what's going on.
Yeah,
but
it was actually a really, really fantastically brutal and awesome fight scene. I love the build up to it too, when he's telling off the woman in the church and he starts to walk away. All of it was just.
See,
I would actually say the movie is worth watching just for that one scene. To be honest,
I want to talk about it more, but I don't want to spoil anything. But how it starts when he like just turns around, boom, and it's like
shoots her right
my
there.
Goodness!
I actually did not see that. I knew a fight scene was coming. I didn't know it was going to literally start with him just point blank to the head. Yeah, that, honestly, I would say this movie is worth seeing just for that. Maybe not in the theater, but this movie is worth seeing just for that one scene.
The climax, I guess you would call it, with the main character in the base was pretty fun.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, exactly. At the end, there's enough good things to the point where I can recommend the film. It was an okay sit-through. But for me, there was nothing, despite that, again, the first and second act just weren't enough for me to like really like say, oh, I love this. This was a great action film. I can't wait to watch it again. It just didn't have that much impact on me. But would I recommend it? Sure I would. It's a fun enough action film.
It was fun.
There's again annoying cliches here and there, but
so a face we haven't seen in a long time. Mark Hamill is in this movie.
Is in the first act of this film.
Like and it started and I'm like, that's Mark Hamill, and you're like, oh my God, it is.
Yep. I guess he'll be appearing in 2 films this year. And hopefully,
he did a fine job.
Hopefully, he'll have more screen time in Star Wars because he was in like 2 scenes in that film.
Yeah,
in this film. But it was nice seeing the guy. He's gained weight.
He dies in a brutal way. I mean,
yeah, he does.
But
yeah, there are fun. Yeah,
and then there was actually a lot of like stars in this movie.
Yeah, the cast was
like
great.
the first Kingsman that we see that goes in to save Mark Hamill. That's the guy from Pirates of the Caribbean, the Commodore guy.
Okay, yeah. Michael Caine, Samuel
Michael Caine,
Jackson.
yeah.
Yeah, it had a good cast. I liked it.
The main Kingsman guy, not the main character,
Yeah.
but the other guy.
I forgot his
feel
name.
like I know him from stuff.
He's been in stuff, and he was really good. Honestly, I would rather he have been the main character, to be honest. Because when he and Samuel Jackson...
I know, when we were watching trailers for this, I know one of your biggest problems going into it was because you didn't like the main character. Like, he looked like he was
He just looked like a tool.
a tool. But...
he was fine.
I liked him, he was a lot better than I thought.
He was a lot better than I thought. Yes,
like, once
I
you
agree.
knew his backstory and stuff
Exactly.
like that, it was okay.
I thought the idea was that he was going to be, like...
just a delinquent.
A delinquent and stay a delinquent, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, he'll become a Kingsman, but he'll still have, like, a cocky attitude, which to some extent he still had, but, like, he would have this just ignorance to him that, like, would be so unlikable. Almost like Will Smith from Men in Black, only without the charm.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. So yeah, he was a lot better than I thought he'd be, which is good. But there was not really anything about him to me that was special. It was still very cliche, and it was still very like, oh, lower class delinquents.
Yeah.
Oh man, like there's all these snobby rich kids that are constantly putting him down, and it was so
cliche.
Unnecessary, but besides that,
but the main Kingsman guy,
he was really good.
I enjoyed him. Yeah.
When he and Samuel Jackson were like, kind of just like
monologuing.
When they were monologuing each other without deliberately saying, "You're the good guy. I'm the bad guy. This is my evil plan." When they were doing that, I really thought like, I would much rather just see the movie about these two facing off.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought that would have been much more intense.
And like, not to spoil anything, but when he drops from the film, I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't expecting it until Samuel Jackson. Well, not in this movie.
Okay.
When they go into that, I was like, okay, I know where this is going. Like, makes sense. But yeah, there were some really good jokes in there, despite the ones that didn't work, and there was some fun action.
Like the weirdest one at the end, but we don't need to talk.
We're not talking about that. Oh.
That was just like, what? Why?
And it was so not the kind of jokes that they were making throughout the film.
No, that one was just like,
it was
raunchy out of nowhere.
I mean, that's the kind of joke that you would expect in like The Hangover.
Yes.
Not in this. So yeah, Kingsman. Would you recommend seeing it?
Yeah,
would you recommend
a lot of fun.
seeing it in theaters?
Sure.
Yeah. All right.